This video is for review quiz 2.3 and 2.4, which is all about linear equations and their kind of application type things. This first one is about finding the linear equation that satisfies the passing through of -4, 6, and 1, 1. What this looks like is on the graph, we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's -4, 6, and then 1, 1 is right here. Now all we're trying to do is figure out what is the equation of this line here. Okay, to find the equation, you need to have two things. You need to have a point that it passes through, and you need to have the slope. The slope is the most important information. In fact, arguably, a line is just a slope that's visual, and then it's kind of transitioned around to fit some kind of initial condition, as it's called. So what we're going to do first is find the slope, and this comes from the slope formula. Let's see, it's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If it's not given to you, you can find the slope by using 2 points, which is given to us, and plugging them into here. So we have the first point is -4, 6. The second point is 1, 1. x2, x1, x2, y1, y2. It doesn't really matter which point you choose. You have to make sure you're consistent, though. I'm going to say x1, y1, x2, y2. But you could have the first, -4 be x2, 6 be y2, and then 1, 1 be x1, y1. It doesn't really matter. You'll get the same slope either way. y2 is 1, y1 is 6, x2 is 1, x1 is -4. I'm just plugging these things into our formula, and solving this gives us -5 on top and 5 on the bottom, which is -1. So we have a slope of -1, and we have one of these 2 points. It doesn't matter which point you choose, just choose one of them. I'm going to go for the 1, 1 because I think that's a little bit easier. The numbers are smaller. And we have a slope of -1. Now we can use the point slope formula. Point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug in the point, x1, y1. In this case, I'm using this as x1, y1. Of course, that's different than up here, which has x1, y1, but I'm using a different equation, so I can rename my variables. You don't have to use the same one, but you can. You can, of course, use this equation or this point in the point slope formula, and you'll get the same answer. But we have our point, so y1 is 1, m is -1, and x1 is also 1. The first y and the first x, these are the variables. They always stay as variables. You do not plug in a number for them. Now all I'm going to do is solve for y. Actually, first, this right here is the point slope formula. So I can, that's my first answer, y minus 1 equals -1 x minus 1. And you'll notice that this is different than what I would get if I plugged in, let's see, if I said x1, y1 equaled -4, 6. But both should work. If I plug that one in, I would get y minus 6 equals -1, x minus the -4 is going to be +4. So we'll try to see if that works, but it should all work. The most important, though, is the slope-intercept form. And that's where we take these equations and solve them for y. After we do that, we have the best form, y equals mx plus b. It's easy to graph. It's easy to exactly see what your slope is, what your y-intercept is, which are arguably the most important, information. It's just the nicest form that you can have. So solving this first one for y, I'm going to first distribute the -1 and then add 1 to the other side. And there's my slope-intercept form. So we get y equal to -x plus 2. If I were to take the other equation, this is just for the sake of completion, distribute the -1, add the 6, I get the exact same equation, which you should expect. The y-intercept or the slope-intercept form is a very nice equation to work with. It's going to be unique for each line that you have. The point-slope form is necessary for finding it, but it's not going to be unique. So here we had, let's try the other one, 6, and then +4, I believe. Yep, let's try that as well. And both you see are correct. All right, let's move along. Okay, here we're going to graph this equation. We have the slope-intercept form. F of x is just the same thing as y, so y equals 4/5 x minus 5. The number in front of the x variable, that is the slope, so our slope is 4/5. Our y-intercept is the number by itself. This is -5. -5. And now we can graph. We're going to start with the y-intercept and then go the slope distance. So the slope is 4/5, the y-intercept is -5. Start with the y-intercept, which is going to be on the y-axis, and it was -5, so it's going to be right here at -5, 0, -5, I should say. And then from this point, we're going to use the slope. The slope was 4/5, +4 over +5, so we're going to rise 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, run 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a rise of 4, a run of 5. 4/5. You always go up or down, and then you always go left or right next. If you read it the right way, really what you should have is, if you had a like we have a slope of 4/5, the rise over run. Positive means up, and up and to the right. If you have something like -4/5, then I would actually make this the same thing as -4 over 5. So instead of rising 4 units, we're going to drop 4 units. And we're still going to go right 5 units. So there's a negative in there. Just add the negative to the numerator. You can always do that. You can move it around. And then either go up or go down, depending on if it's positive or negative, and then always go to the right, whatever the denominator is. All right, let's check that, and that's correct. Okay, very similar. We're going to use the intercepts to graph the equation. Now, this equation is in, I believe it's called standard form of a line. There's really nothing standard about it. It's probably the worst way to have a line. Y equals mx plus b is the best way because it's much easier to work with. Ax plus by plus c equals 0 kind of looks like a quadratic in a way, but it's just really not useful to work with. So what you could do is you could solve this equation for y, and that would give you the slope-intercept form. But there's no need in this case because it's asking us to use the intercepts to graph the equation. The intercepts are just 2 points, and all you need is 2 points on a line to graph a line. So really all we need to do is figure out, when is x equal to 0? If x equals 0, what does y equal? That's the first step. This thing becomes 0, so it just goes away, and we get 5y plus 20 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 20 and then divide by 5. That gives me y equal to -4. So we have 0, -4. This is the y-intercept. And the x-intercept is when y equals 0. That means this 5y term is going to be equal to 0. So we get 4x plus 20 equals 0. Subtract 20 and then divide by 4. We get x equal to -5. So our x-intercept is -5, 0. Using these 2 points, we can plot them. The y-intercept is 0, -4. Just right here on the y-axis, and add -4. The x-intercept is -5, 0. So on the x-axis, go to -5. There's your 2 points. That's the only line that fits that. So that's what we're looking for there. Intercepts are very nice to work with, especially for lines. In general, they're nice to work with because you have 0 for one of the variables, and that makes things typically easier to work with. Okay, here we're just going to graph this equation, and I'm going to do this by solving for f of x. We can think of the f of x as the same thing as y. It's just using function notation instead of, the two variables. So you can do the same thing that we just did. Really, you can just, think of f of x as y and then find the two intercepts. I'm going to solve this for f of x and get me slope-intercept form. The first I want to get the f of x. I'm going to try and get the f of x by itself because that's going to be what we want, y by itself. Then we can divide by 4. The same thing as dividing everything by 4. And that gives me f of x equals 7/4 x. And this thing reduces down to 7/2. I can rewrite this as y equal to 7/4 x minus 7/2. And now you see my slope is 7/4. It's always a number in front of the x variable. And my y-intercept is 7/2. So first step is we go down to the y-intercept, which is 7/2. We have 6, 7. 7/2 is 7/2 is 3.5. It's going to be negative 3.5. So we have negative 3.5, which you can see up there at the top right. It says 0, negative 3.5. That's the same thing as negative 7/2 is the y-intercept. And from this point, we're going to go up 7 units and right 4 units. That's what the 7/4 is. So up 7 units from negative 3.5 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at that point, 6 at this one, and 7 at positive 3.5. And then over 4, that one's easy. That's just going to be at the 4. So 4 positive 3.5. That should be the line they're looking for. And that's correct. So just in this case, you could use the intercepts, whatever you want to do. I just wanted to show you a different method of solving it. All right, next problem is dealing with parallel and perpendicular. To find the equation of any line, you have to know the slope. That's always the first and most important part. Find the slope. So we have a line that's passing through -9, -5, and it's parallel. So it's going to be parallel to y equal -5x plus 4. Just to kind of show you what this means, I'm going to graph it. You don't have to do this, but I just want to give you kind of the information they're talking about here. So this line that's parallel to is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the y-intercept. -5 is the same as -5/1. So we're going to go down 5 units and run 1 unit. So this is the line that our line is parallel to. And it passes through -9, -5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, -9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It passes through this point, and it's parallel to this line, so it's going to look something like this. This is the line we're trying to find. This is the equation. This is the f of x, or the y, that we're going for. You don't have to graph it. We're going to use this information that's given to us to find the relevant pieces. The first part, like I said, the first part that's most important is finding the slope. The slope is going to come from the parallel line. Parallel lines have the same slope. So our line that we have that's parallel to it is going to have the slope of -5, which is the same thing as -5/1. It's just the same thing. So we have our slope, m equals -5, and it's going to pass through this point. So we know a point already on the line. We can use the point and slope formula to find the equation of this line. So we have m equal to -5, and our point is -9, -5. We can use the point slope form to find the full form. This is going to be x1, y1. We get y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. This is the point slope form, just in case you don't remember it. Very important to find slope intercept. So y minus y1 is going to be y plus 5 equals negative 5, x plus 9. Solve for y, distribute the negative 5. That gives us negative 5x minus 45, and subtract 5. Negative 5x minus 50. Okay, we have our point slope formula. Let's do y plus 5 equals negative 5 times the quantity x plus 9. Then we have the slope intercept form, which is y equal to negative 5x minus 50. Let's see if that's correct. And it is. Parallel lines have the same slope. Just keep that in mind, because this next problem is very similar, except now we have a perpendicular line, which is going to have a 90-degree angle to the line. I'll show you it. Here we have a line passing through 4, negative 4, and is perpendicular. Oh, this one's got x minus 8y minus 5 equals 0, which is really not useful at all. Let's solve this for y really quick. Plus 8y I should say, and divide by 8. This is the same thing as y equal to 1/8 x minus 5/8. I'm going to get rid of this information because none of that's going to be useful. This equation, however, is useful. All right, let me try to graph it here. Okay, negative 5/8. Let's say this is negative 1. Negative 5/8 is, I don't know, somewhere around there. And then 1/8 is going to go up 1 to, let's see, it's going to be about here. This is going to be 3/8. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, draw a straight line through those 2 points. So this is our perpendicular line. And the point that we want to graph it on is 4, negative 4. Down here. And perpendicular is going to be a right angle. So it's going to look something like this. That's the line we want to find. This is a right angle. It meets at 90 degrees. And that's the line that we're looking for. Now, once again, you don't have to graph this to understand what we're looking for. All we need is really the information, the point and the perpendicular too. So if it's perpendicular, it's the same thing as negative reciprocal slope. So what we have here is a slope of 1/8. So perpendicular slope, I'm gonna write it like this, that this is the symbol for perpendicular, is gonna be negative. It's positive, so make it negative, and then flip it. 1/8 is the same thing as 8/1, or in other words, just negative 8. So that's our slope, negative 8. Now we have a point and we have a slope. We can use the point slope formula, let's see, 4, negative 4, to find the equation. All right, point slope formula, we have x1, y1, so y minus y1. Y minus y1 is going to be y minus negative 4, so plus 4. And then x minus x1. That's our first problem there. Negative 8. X minus 4. Okay, and now we can solve for y to get the, oh, no, it wants the general form. So general form is just get everything over to one side and then have x, y, and the number. So we're still going to have to distribute. I actually was fine with the work I did. Plus 32. And so now we want to get everything over to one side. This should have an x next to it. So I'm going to add the 8x to this side. and subtract the 32 to this side. 32. Now we have 8x plus y minus 28 equals 0. 8x plus y minus 28. See if that's correct. And it is. And this line, as you can see, it's really not helpful. You can't just look at this. I mean, you could, if you knew what you're doing, you could look at it and figure out what the slope is, but it's not readily apparent. As if we were to solve for y, we have negative 8 plus 32, negative 8x plus 32, subtract 4. Then here we see that we have y equal to negative 8x plus 28. I can tell you immediately the slope is negative 8, and the y-intercept is at the point 0, 28. I have a point, I have the slope, I can graph it quite easily. This one, none of the information is readily apparent by just looking at it. You have to do a few things to see it. So that's the reason why general equation is, the general form is not very useful, but the slope-intercept form is incredibly useful.